There are three elements to selling comic books on YouTube: building your audience, how appealing your book is, and how invested your audience is in what you're doing. In the video I did yesterday, I outlined part one, building your audience. In this video, I'm going to do the two of them together: how appealing is your book and how invested are your audience, because I do think these things are actually two sides of the same coin. I know some people think you can get away with one without the other. To a certain extent, I guess you can. You'll do okay. But if you really want to sell, on YouTube, you've got to have both sides of the coin working together. So first of all, let's jump into how appealing is the book. There's not like too much to talk about in terms of the art and stuff, but I will just say I'm not talking about the IP yet. I think this is where it gets the subtlety comes in. I think that falls into how invested your audience is in what you're doing. Here, I'm just talking about the actual art. And if you want to talk about the book itself, at this point, we're just talking about things like your pitch, the concept, the premise, whatever it is, what the story is about, because people don't actually have the book in their hands yet. They don't know if it's great. So, at this point, we're just sort of talking about how appealing is the look of it, the art of it, like the bells and whistles and everything. And that is really important. Very important, actually. People are so much more likely to back something if it's gonna if it looks awesome. When we know that, and not only that, I think more importantly, people are so much more likely to share it, to spread it around. You're also, when you have good art, and I know this is someone who promotes people regularly, you're also more likely to get on shows. I say this to everyone: great art opens doors. It really does. So it does have a big impact, but there's not really much else to say about that. I mean, good art costs a lot of money. It's hard to find good artists. It's hard to find reliable good artists, but that's the business of making comic books. Now, some people think, as I said earlier, that all you need is a great looking book. But like I said, that it really is only one part of the equation. There are thousands of great looking books, maybe millions. I don't know. If you want to count all the back issues of comic books that have ever existed, maybe there are millions, I don't know, of great looking comic books out there. So even if you have an amazing book, the question then is, why would someone invest in yours? You've got to convince someone out there to invest in your great book instead of everyone else's great book that's out there, that's ever been made in comic books or will ever be made or is up for sale at the moment. And that's where I think we get into the real secret sauce of selling comic books on YouTube. Now, so like I said, two sides of the coin, right? First of all, let's do our obligatory. Let's talk about Ripper. you gotta mention Eric July in every video. It's imperative. Say it. Make sure you say his name 3 times in every video, Eric July. People are saying, all right, so here's the argument out there: the only reason young Ripper has made $3 million is because he's famous. He's built up an enormous channel. He gets millions of views every month. That's certainly a big part of it. Yes, obviously. No one's denying that. But can I just ask this? Would if instead of the Ripperverse, instead of Isom, Ripper, because no one saw his campaign before I went live, what if it was a slice of life Tumblr comic with the really uber diverse cast of unlikely young girls sitting in a diner sipping coffee for 30 pages? Do you think it would have gone as gangbusters as it has? I don't think it would have. And likewise, people often attribute Ethan Van Sciver's success to, being there at the beginning of Comicsgate and riding that wave, being at the forefront, cancel culture and all that stuff. And yes, again, certainly that has played a big role in where Ethan is today and his, part of his success, obviously. But don't all at the same time, don't discount the broad appeal of a character like Comicsgate, of an IP like Comicsgate. Sorry, Cyberfrog. I misspoke. No edits. The incredible appeal of Cyberfrog. The character, the look, what he's doing with it, all the stuff, the toys and everything. Yeah. If he had have done something different, I don't think he would be as successful as he is. So this is the part where, yeah, it's like, this is the hardest part, right? The secret sauce. This is the hardest part, the most difficult part for people to really understand and grasp, because a lot of it is kind of intangible. There's a lot of subtlety involved. There's a lot of things that aren't really, they're subjective. There's no objective way to do it. And that's why a lot of people, I think, either kind of ignore it outright and just hope they don't have to deal with this side of it, or just, winging a prayer, fingers crossed, get it out there. And now, look, the traditional factors in selling comics are still very much in play, even on YouTube, right? This is where I'm talking about the story, the characters, the IP. That's still very much in play. Now, if you're doing your first book, however, I mean, that's almost impossible, certainly very difficult to portray, to get out there and to capitalize on when you're marketing your very first book. Like, how do you have people invested in a story and characters that they haven't even read yet? So this is why we do see people who've put out multiple campaigns. The momentum can really add up. That word of mouth matters. It's always mattered. It will always matter. That will never change, no matter the technology or whatever system we're using. So that's still very much in play. But that's kind of outside of the realm of selling comic books on YouTube. It's a big part of it, but it's it's so ubiquitous. So to get to things that are YouTube specific, how to really sell comics on YouTube. This is what I think is my experiences. And it might not be everything, but I think it's a pretty good list. All right. So number one, provide regular entertainment or information. Now, I said that that's like a part and parcel of building your audience. But here's one of the benefits of doing that beyond building your audience. If you entertain people regularly, consistently, not just a video here, a video there, I've got a channel, haven't really uploaded anything. If you do that regularly, people will turn up to reward you for that. Don't fall into the trap, which I see out there, of people saying, I don't want someone backing my book just because they like me, just because they like my videos. I want them backing my book because they love the book. We all want everyone to love our books, but at the same time, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Allow people and encourage people to support you, however and for whatever reasons that they want to. Okay. So if you have that channel regularly, consistently, people will turn up to reward you for that, however they see fit. Another big part of having a channel, this is part of the entertainment and everything, is channel lore. And this is something that might be a little bit difficult to understand for someone who isn't really, ensconced in the YouTube community or whatever. But lore is massive. Lore is big. And I always encourage lore. What am I talking about here? Well, on my channel, we have the Bogans, the Bogans, right? That's what we call them. It's got to do with the fact that I'm Australian, and there's all these fun and quirky, crazy things that Australians have and do. We got the golden gay time and the VB and all that sort of stuff. But it's also just like the Bancroft bump, like these memes that grow over time, that you accumulate through putting out entertaining content. It fosters a sense of a community in a channel. These things are invaluable, absolutely invaluable. And look at how invested the audiences are of the people who encourage that and push that and sell that than those who don't. I think you'll see there's a massive difference going on there. Really lean into the meme. Always. Whenever it comes up, like jump on it. I encourage that thoroughly, even if it's a little bit insulting, just a little. No, even if it's disparaging. I mean, people love that stuff. I love that stuff. I love being part of it on other people's channels. It's a big part of it. What else have we got here that we can do on channels? Campaign launches. This is a new thing. This is a YouTube specific thing that's developed over the last 4 years. This never used to happen. People have done crowd funds going back years now. The new thing is now we launch these things live on a stream. We didn't invent this because we thought it would be, we could see it was the best thing to be. This came about through trial and error. Through just doing things and seeing what works. And we found that if you launch your campaign on a stream, people get swept up in the excitement. And we've also learned other things like, hey, encourage people to put their backer numbers in the chat. Be part of it. Be part of what's happening, everyone together. This stuff can become electrifying. I myself have backed loads of campaigns that I wasn't, 20 minutes earlier, I wasn't even planning on backing, just because I was swept up in this party atmosphere. Everyone together having fun, enjoying seeing someone succeed, celebrating together. Now, having said all that, the launch party itself is the stage. It's still on every creator to sort of build that buzz well before the launch. So don't just think, I've got a launch coming up on a YouTube channel. It's going to be, as big as all the others. Now you also have to do all the work beforehand. You got to promote. You got to get out there and build all that up beforehand. But really, I think these campaign launches, they send these campaigns into the stratosphere in a way that we didn't really have before. So, and a smart YouTuber will use YouTube to keep the momentum going throughout the campaign, during the campaign. Don't just let it be the opening and the closeout. Like, keep it going. How do we do that? Well, be entertaining, be fun, give goals and things like that. The chat encouraged, demanded. How would you word it? Coerced Shane Davis of Talking and Drawing with Shane Davis, when he met a certain goal in his campaign, to dress up as a sumo and do like a sumo routine live on a stream. This sort of stuff gets people, it gets bums on seats. It gets people wanting to be involved in what's happening. And I know that because I feel the exact same things when I see it with everyone else. Speaking of Shane versus John Malin, 1 or 2 war. This stuff is gold. This stuff sells books. There was another one that we have. There was a guy who said when he raised more money than Ethan, I finally defeated the evil. Well, we turned that into a meme. Now in this corner, we're all like, every time we want to kind of race against someone, friendly competition style, we call it defeating the evil. Rob Arnold and I defeated each other like back and forth, like ping pong, when we were both live with our campaigns, and it just kept driving up sales back and forth, back and forth. I'm in front of Rob on sales. He's in front of me on total amount raised. Bang, bang, bang. This stuff works. It's great. This is what people want to get involved in. Now, if you don't have a channel, this is obviously harder to do if you don't actually have one yourself, but get onto as many as possible. If people see you regularly, and not even just chilling, just see you regularly, they are so much more likely to invest in you, in what you're doing. I can't stress this enough. The psychologists have a name for this. It's called parasocial relationships. They sort of look at that as in a kind of negative context, and it certainly can be in some instances, with like ethos and whatever. But I think in CG, it's not like that. At least that's not how I see it. In CG, we go beyond just the sort of, we're up on the stage and you're all out in the crowd. Like, in CG, we talk directly to the chat. We know them by name. We get to know them. We know them sort of as personally as you can know someone over the internet. Their mannerisms, what kind of person they are. Like, that's a real thing that we get to know. And that's and even if you can't or won't or whatever actually get onto shows, like, the easiest thing to do is hanging out in the chat. Taking part of the fun from the chat, not selling to them, not jumping in there and saying, hey, I've got a book, here's a link, could someone post my link? Becoming one of them for real, being part of the community. Like, this stuff is the easiest thing to do. And it still mystifies me that a lot of creators out there, they can't take 10, 15 minutes out of their day every day to just come in and say hello and joke around. You don't have to stay there for 3 or 4 hours. Just like, look at what Phil Diaz does. He's popping from chat to chat, saying hello to everyone. He knows everyone. He's just kind of reminding everyone that, hey, I'm here. Like, I'm part of this every day. People spend tens of thousands of dollars on their book. They'll spend all this time, but they won't take a few minutes out of their day to drop into a chat and say hello, drop a few jokes, bit of banter. I mean, this is what sells books, not just random shill posts on Reddit and Facebook. And the chat is incredibly accurate at sniffing out any kind of BS or just like people who are just kind of coming in there to grift or whatever. Like, the chat is perfect for that. Like, the chat are our hardcore base, if you want to look at it like that. They're the every creator out there. I can't stress enough. Invest in the chat. I will pay you back in dividends. They'll promote you without even asking, 24/7. Sometimes I wake up and there'll be like a list of notification of people out there that I know. I know now. I interact with them daily, who are out there promoting the Lucent and my channel for me while I sleep. Do you have that? This is what you can have if you use YouTube properly to sell comic books. On top of that, promotions are that much more credible when it's not coming from the creator. We all know that. Like, the creator's like, buy my book. But if you got fans out there telling you, it's a whole nother ball game. So I mean, that's really invaluable. How do you get that? How do you get to the point where the chat is going to do that for you? I call it becoming a tentpole creator. What I mean by that is, in this promotional network we've got, and I'm in Comicsgate, but it doesn't have to just be Comicsgate. There's all sorts. I mean, there's a big industry out there of people promoting and trying to sell comic books on YouTube. I think we should try and tap into all of them. But becoming a tentpole creator means you are holding up this network in some way, by doing work, by promoting others, by making shows, by bringing in new fans, whatever it is. Like, say, for instance, I always used to say Ethan was the biggest tentpole creator in independent comics on YouTube. Maybe now that's Ripper. I don't know. They're like together, double, like, massive tent poles. But in a circus tent, there's other sort of smaller poles outside holding up smaller tents. If you become a tent pole creator, you will have eager fans and other creators out there promoting and supporting what you're doing without you even asking them. Because they know you're out there helping the network grow and stabilize. That was the big thing when this all started years ago. It was like, this will never last. It's flash in the pan. It can't go on. And well, it can go on if we stabilize the whole thing. If we make it strong enough and big enough so that if someone goes away, if someone drops off, there's plenty of people still holding the whole thing up elsewhere. And that's sort of, well, that leads me to Comicsgate. Now I know some of you out there don't want to be involved in a group. You don't want to have a label attached to you. I get it. All right. For me, it's not about a club. It's not like, oh, that you got to have a secret handshake and I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. I know a lot of people see it like that. It's not about joining a secret club. It's about inspiring people. It's about, I mean, it's got, Comicsgate is lots of different things. It's a network, it's a community, it's a group. It's also still a movement. It inspires people, and inspiration sells. It's like you're at the forefront, the front line of a culture war. I mean, people really get behind that. I know I do. It's being part of it. It's not and some people don't care about any of that, and that's fine. But there are a lot of people who do, and we see, obviously, like, that's, I think, plays in part, a large part into why Ripper is sitting at $3 million at the moment. He's inspiring people. He's offering a legitimate alternative to other things. So, like, Ripper's trying to build a universe that's an alternative to the mainstream comic book universes that are out there. So he's saying, like, when you back me, you're not just backing a book, you're investing in more. You're investing in an idea, you're investing in hope for the future, and potentially something that can be real and we can all build together. To me, that's why I'm, like, super happy to be part of Comicsgate, and aligned with what Eric July is doing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, like, that's a big important thing. Now I know some of you hear me say this and you're like, hey, Jack Kirby never had to make videos or be a online pundit. Steve Ditko Steve Ditko never had to hang out in the chat. Why can't I just sell my book? I've heard that. I've seen that written. I've heard that said. To that I say, well, okay, when did comic books never have to be promoted? Even when comics were on every newsstand across the world, really, Western world, you still had guys like Stan Lee out there promoting and hustling for decades, like, building this thing up. There were cartoons, there was Wizard magazine and all that sort of stuff. The Image guys, when they broke off, I don't know if it was in about, maybe they wanted to, they kind of created a creator first movement where we putting artists before corporations making money and all that sort of stuff. That's what they did when they broke on that. That was kind of a movement people could rally behind. But those times are gone, and a lot of those readers are gone, or at least they're not into comics anymore. The the mainstream, the big two, Marvel and DC, they've squandered 2 generations of new young readers because they wanted to chase, or maybe they needed to chase, the quick buck, speculations and direct market and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then long after they went off chasing phantom audiences that don't exist. If you count manga and online today, there are more comics being made right now, than ever before in history. Yeah. So there's more comics and fewer people reading them. Well, there's a lot of people reading manga. So, but unless the audience is scattered and sequestered into their own camps, unless you're capable of competing with Shonen Jump and getting your regular, every couple of months 300-page digest into Scholastic, yeah, you're gonna have to find another way of doing things. And I think YouTube is that way. It's the way forward. It's really the only option for a lot of us, because we don't have access to existing markets. We don't have access to existing promotional networks and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of that stuff is shrinking. It's in decline. Whereas YouTube is a universe of possibility that I don't think we've even begun to explore. I don't think we've begun to scratch the surface. If you see how big YouTube channels can get, even the biggest comic book channels are still considered kind of small in that arena. And, you know, until the Rippaverse came out, we didn't have any idea that there were 35,000 people out there willing to support people if you can convince them to invest in you. Now that this has happened, it's got me wondering how many more are out there. And yeah, it's exciting stuff. Guys, that's it for the video. I hope that was informative for everyone who's out there. These are the things that I've learned. Maybe you've got other ideas, things I forgot to say. Please do leave a comment about that if you do. Other than that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Please consider becoming a member. You are helping to create brand new comics as we speak. Other than that, I'll see you next time. All right, guys. Bye.